Welcome to Mastery Fractional CFO's Punchy podcast, short, impactful podcasts where I speak with business leaders from all walks of life about business. I'm your host, Ryan Chenier. I'm the founder and CEO of Mastery Fractional CFO Services. And today I've got with me Jennifer Hamilton. Her company is Hamilton COOs. She's a fractional COO. She's a COO mentor, a CPA, and a secret force who shifts your business from chaos to practically running itself. Jen, welcome to the show. Tell us about who you are and what you do. Tell us about your business and a little bit about your background.
Sure. I'll start with my background. My background, as you mentioned, I was a practicing CPA for 7 years in PricewaterhouseCoopers and some big areas. And where I really started to fall in love with is I love the process. I love the metrics and being able to kind of bring things together. But I also started to really appreciate as I kind of climbed the ladder the leadership side of things and how teams work together and cross-functionally and that sort of thing. And so over time, after leaving that public accounting field, I went into more consulting and understanding kind of the leadership and management side of things. And then when I went out on my own, I decided to bring the two together, operational consulting along with leadership and management. And over time, I evolved into a fractional COO even before I knew what that word meant. Just started to do the work and found myself really loving this combination of being able to actually be second in command, help run these small businesses, how to operate better as a business, but bring in all of the different business acumen, marketing, sales, understanding finance, understanding really how to get the clients served and the team working well together. And so I love the game of business, and being a fractional COO brings it all together. So it's just been so much fun.
And just for our viewers out there who don't know, COO stands for Chief Operating Officer.
Very good. I forget that part. I'm so used to getting to the acronym, but yes, exactly. And a lot of people get confused about the operating word. And that's why I say, think of it as operating the business, not operating your product service. It's really, there's director of operations who help make sure what you do happens. But the COO, the chief operating officer, is about the business operating.
Right. And maybe tell us from the 10,000 foot view what the COO would do. If it was a full time COO, what that person would do in a company, and then what a fractional COO would do.
So it's interesting that in some ways, both the full time and the fractional are the same. Just the amount of problems and challenges that the company has grows as the company grows, and shifting to need a full time. The main work that a COO does, full time or fractional, is working in tandem with that CEO to make strategic directions and help to be able to figure out like what's the best decision. The COO is really good at understanding the impact of the execution of the idea, where the CEO is really great at coming up with the ideas. And then the next main part of our role is to lead the leadership team, to bring together the different functions and those who are leading it to make sure we work collaboratively. We understand how something that marketing and sales is doing, how that impacts finance and operations, and being able to just bring everyone together to make good decisions and help those leaders be better leaders. So it's really about strategy, leadership, and execution of that strategy. Now, as I said, if you are a full-time, there's usually more company-wide projects, there's more hairy kind of issues that you have to deal with, more maybe big planning projects. So then you're needed more. As a fractional in a smaller business where we fit the budget and we fit the need, you don't need a full-time person to really help make those decisions, move the leadership team forward, and move the strategy forward.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something there just about alignment amongst the different functions, business development or sales and marketing, the accounting side, the finance side, and the operations side. And there really does need to be alignment. That's something that I experienced in working with my clients. There's not the best understanding out there. If a CEO who's phenomenal at envisioning what their business needs to look like and getting people to follow along with that vision, I find that's what CEOs are typically very good at. But when it comes to executing, they need other people on their team, and those other people need to collaborate amongst one another and work well. I like to call it almost like lieutenants, if you're going to use the military metaphor, but the CEO is the general, and then you need good lieutenants who are managing their areas in collaboration and coordination with one another to see the CEO's vision take place. And that's something that a lot of smaller businesses, as they're looking to grow, they don't fully have that immediate understanding. And as a fractional professional, and I'm sure you encounter this, and I want to hear a little bit about that. When you enter into an organization and you just begin doing work with the CEO and the other key stakeholders in the business, what do you find are some of the most immediate challenges or roadblocks or bottlenecks that they have in their field of vision that you need to work on with them to help them get to that next step, using you as the fractional COO?
Sure. So, great question. And I think that a lot of people can relate to some of these things because what happens is when you start your business, you have yourself, and then you start to maybe add in one other person who could do the service or help you with the product. And then, as you know, probably they add on a bookkeeper, or maybe they make the executive assistant also the bookkeeper. So you start adding on people. But as you grow, what you're really doing is as you add on more people and more clients or people that you serve, you add on more complexity. And that's the reason that you start to bring in folks like yourself, Ryan, or folks like me, is that it's too complex. You haven't been there, you haven't done that before, and you need that executive experience to understand. So the things that I often see are really more team related issues. So I often see that the people aren't being accountable. So they're not doing what they say they're going to do, or they're not taking initiative. So what that looks like is that all of the decisions are being made by the owner, by the CEO, and there's all the direction is being given, like you said, from that general. Instead of having lieutenants, instead of having even the I'm going to do terrible with the military, but even the soldiers
Yeah.
knowing exactly what they need to do. And that's so much of what a fractional COO comes in to do is just make sure people are clear what is their role, how are they going to be measured, and what's expected of them, and then to be able to give them the appropriate role for their skill set and let them take on what it is they do best. So in other words, let them know what decisions they can make, where they can bring up ideas. So taking that initiative, being that accountable team member. Now what happens is you have a team you can trust and rely on instead of going back to where they begin with me is chaos. They're not clear. Probably people are stepping on each other's toes, bottlenecking the decision. So that's a lot of times what we come in and peel that back and get everyone really rowing in the right direction and in the right seat with the right oar, if you will.
Yeah, those I love all of the figurative language we're using here because it rings true. It's usually not an issue that the people in the organization have a skill issue. Like that's not the problem. It's not even a will issue. It's not that they don't want to do a good job. It's not that they can't do a good job. It's that they need some direction, somebody to help marshal the forces, and that's where part of it is often the personality of the people who want to grow businesses, CEOs or whoever's the key stakeholders are. They are very visionary type people, but there's a certain amount of good, solid best practices, tactics that you need to employ in order to get everybody doing what they need to do. That they want to do a good job, but just what exactly do I need to focus on? What are our priority items? When you engage with a new company to help them out, how do you implement? What's the transition look like? How do you identify what the key issues are, and then how do you go about resolving that?
The first thing is I want to understand the business as quickly as I can, but as in depth as I can. When we're solving problems in that fractional COO seat, we want to solve at the root cause. It takes a little bit to understand what's really behind why we see the challenges, the obstacles that are getting in the way. So the way I like to really start is I have a diagnostic so we can quickly kind of get their self-assessment of what's strong and maybe what's not so strong in their business. But a lot of it also, go ahead.
Is that a tool that you're actually getting them to fill out, or is that like a
Yep.
process you walk them through? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a
Interesting.
tool we fill out, and then we look at the results and have more interview, more deeper dive questions. And I love it too when it's not only the CEO that fills it out, but maybe someone else that they turn to for execution. So that could be an operations person, it could be an EA, but who do they turn to? I want them both to fill it out. And then we compare. You see a little bit more color when you start to go beyond just what is that owner's view of their business and start to understand what other people's view. I also look at the financials. As you know, the financials tell their own story. So I want to see where they're at. And I like to look at too, what is their direction? So do they have goals? Do they have mission, vision, values? So I understand just a better understanding of what they have in place in the clarity of the business, the why of the business, the where we're going of the business. And then the last thing I look at when I get started is if they have one, I'll look at their org chart or their accountability chart. Because again, as we said, so much is riding on the clarity of the roles, who is doing what, who's making what decisions. And the org chart or the accountability chart is such a nice visual of that, that if they can't even put that in a quick visual, then probably most likely people do not know who's doing what and what their role is. And we go back to those stepping on each other's toes and bottlenecking as we shared.
Yeah, I like the way I like your approach with respect to that. And it is a little bit different from my approach as a fractional CFO, but as a COO, it makes complete sense. Let me ask you, what size businesses do you find are at the point of having a corporate org chart in place? And at what point do they generally not have that in place? Are you able to put that in revenue per year terms or anything like that?
I think that most businesses, once you get to around 2 million, you start to understand the importance of having solid business foundational tools in place, structures in place. And so they may at least have one. So I've definitely have clients who come in, it's not necessarily the most detailed or accurate org chart, but they at least understand this is important. It's I think getting to that 1 million mark and just a little bit above is such a scramble. There's so much going on, and you feel like the weight of the world on your shoulders. That the last thing you're thinking of is, oh my gosh, let's step back and look at how is our corporate structure? Is
Yeah.
everyone in the right seat? So you need it sooner than that, but you're usually not quite, focused on this is a good solid business structure that we need in place. And that's why I often have to put it in place with them.
How would you describe your target client? What does your target client look like? How big are they? Are they in a specific niche or specific industry or a market vertical or anything like that? How would you describe that?
My entire career has been in professional services. So I love working with small boutique law firms, accounting firms, and management consulting firms because
Yeah.
to me, it's all about your team and your clients. That we can get those things dialed in, everything else sort of works. And they go hand in hand, they work with each other. When I say boutique firms, I've had some as small as 500,000 in revenue up to 20 million. I think the sweet spot, at least for me, is around 1 million to 5 million, because that's when you're getting enough of some feedback, if you will, from the market that, hey, this is a business, this is working, and it's worthy of investing in making sure that it's solid and can continue to grow. But if you start to get above 5 million without good, solid business practices and having your team build their business acumen, you are in a world of hurt. And I think the collapse from a high is much worse than if we start, when you're around 1 million and build it up slowly. Like it's a much bigger fall at 5 million if you don't have those business practices in place.
You had mentioned that quality man. Well, you didn't mention quality management. I'm jumping ahead of myself. You mentioned mission, vision, and values, and that a company you want to know if they've got that in place, and you want to know if they've got the org chart in place. So that makes me think of quality management, having a proper system or process that you're following. Entrepreneurial operating system or EOS is one of them, for example. But tell me what's been your experience with quality management in general, mission, vision, values, and what do you like to see? How do you direct your clients? I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I have been trained in EOS. I've certainly worked with many companies that run on EOS. If they're asking for a fractional integrator, I certainly have been in that role and raised my hand for that. Where I feel like there's a piece that EOS is excellent at, and there's a piece that EOS leaves off that I, as a COO, would feel remiss in not fully completing my job. What I think EOS and a lot of structures like scaling up and other things are great at, as you mentioned, is really having that clear direction. Why are we doing what we're doing? What's the bigger impact we're going to make? And how do we work together? Those are those mission, vision, values, those core pieces that bring the team together. EOS and others are also great at, like, what are our goals? Where are we going? And how do we break them down? And how do we measure it, and metrics? And how do we communicate? What's our team? What's our structure? And there's 3 other pieces that I add to my role and to the team that I have when we go out with clients is that we want to make sure we not only cover strategic direction, leadership, team, which EOS and systems do so well, but we also look at that client experience. We look at cash flows and profitability from an operational point of view, which is why I love having fractional CFOs to make it happen. But we want to look at it from a making a decision point of view and are we profitable point of view. And the last piece is business development. If we're not operationally looking at the effectiveness with our clients, the effectiveness of our financials, and the effectiveness of our marketing, all of the other operating system pieces of the system don't work either.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes total sense. As a fractional CFO, I'm doing similar things, not the same as what you do. It's a different, like to your point, it is different. So our focus is primarily on the finances, but what we invariably get to with the business owners and the key stakeholders in the business is that all of the finances, all of the financial key performance indicators we're looking at are lagging indicators. They're lagging metrics. They're the result of things that happen elsewhere in the organization. So I'm often speaking with the stakeholders of a business about their business development strategy and how that can impact the finances in a positive way, and how can we be intentional about making that better. And on the operations side, same thing. What are your constraints? What data are you looking at? But let's talk for a minute about business development, sales and marketing, because that is the one, most growing businesses, that's the one where their focus is often there because they're not growing as fast as they want to, or they're not growing the way they want to. They're accepting clients that aren't ideal, or they're accepting work that isn't within the proper scope for them or the right parameters for the way they want to operate. So, easy question, or sorry, difficult question, but I'll try to simplify it. What do you do? What's your approach with respect to business development when you're getting in with a new client?
From an operational point of view, the key pieces that I'm looking for is, do they have a strategy? I mean, a real strategy. A lot of times
Yeah.
they say it's a strategy. So I will ask if they say yes, let me look at it, because I don't trust that it's actually a strategy. And then I want to look at their tactics. Do they align with the strategy? And strategy is so important with everything we do. I mean, that's part of why it's so brilliant to have a CFO, not just a bookkeeper, right? We need someone who can understand where we're going, how best to get there, what's appropriate for us and our clients. It's certainly important in finance, and it's also just even especially like, what do our clients need? That needs to be part of the strategy and the business development. So I'm looking for strategy, and then I'm looking for alignment and execution. As you can imagine, I look at ideas and then how do we make it happen? That's
Right.
always the theme with me. But the other pieces that I think are so important, again, from an operational view of business development, is going to what you said. We both have this love for numbers, the metrics. We need to understand the feedback of our work in marketing and in sales, both together and separately. As you said, you can look at the financial statements and see the revenue and it's lagging. I want to look at leading indicators, and I want to understand that if we do these type of marketing tactics, we will know that they have an X conversion rate, like it's going to work, that converts into a sales conversation, and then our sales process and our sales team is going to be able to convert them into a client. And so we want to get into the process. We want to get into the measuring the effectiveness of the process with those metrics. And that's what I look at from a operational point of view. And then I want to look at that. Are we often reflecting on that, not just collecting it, to see what's working, what's not working, so we can make adjustments to our training and to our approach with our team. I'm not the expert in the business development side with my clients, but I'm the expert at making sure that the process and the team are doing the best we can, or if we need to adjust.
And often that's what a company will need. They can sell, they can advertise, they can get the word out regarding their business, but they need more structure, they need more process. And so that's great. I like that. How would somebody, okay, let's pretend that we know there's business owners who are watching our podcast or listening to our podcast. How do they know it's time to reach out to somebody like you, a fractional COO?
A couple signs where you are burnt out, you are feeling like you have to answer every question. You feel like you're the only one can do it right. Why can't these other people do it right? But you're also often complaining to others about the same things over and over again. I call it whack-a-mole. So if the same problems keep popping up, that's when we're starting to say, okay, what we're missing is an operational business acumen, business professional who knows how to run a business coming in and putting in those systems and getting the team to know how to execute on those systems. But yeah, it's you can hear it in how you complain. One of the ways I like to say is if you went to a conference with your colleagues and after all the workshops and keynotes at the bar, what are you complaining about? That's listen to what you say, listen to what they say, and you'll know, okay, it's time for some help. Those are the things you need help with.
And when so if if somebody listening to the podcast reaches out to you and says, okay, I think that's me, what should I expect after 90 days? Like what are you going to do in the first 90 days? And then what should are you going to be around after a year, or is it a short-term engagement? What is the life cycle of a fractional COO look like if I'm a business leader who's coming to you for help?
It's a great question. And one of the things is that everything I do with my clients is customized. So before we even get to the diagnostics, like we were saying, and doing all of those questions to understand really what's at the root cause of it, there's a lot of diagnostics that I do in the sales process. I want to understand exactly, for me, it's really important to see who is already on their team. And so within the understanding of who can I rely on to either train, equip, or partner with to put some of these business systems in place will give me the idea of how long it's going to take, right? So the first 90 days look like first that diagnostics, and then we create an agreed upon plan of what we're going to work on first, narrow it down to 3 priorities, and then who's going to work on it. So what's nice is in those first 90 days, you actually start to see some of the most, I would say, hot potatoes being handled, and not just by me, but by their team, which to me is even more powerful, is it's equipping the team to figure out how to get into a groove of understanding prioritizing, project planning, execution on these things, putting processes in place. And so you'll start to see the team start to work out better. But the other side that happens is that's with your great team members. We also see in the first 90 days, the ones who don't belong, if you will, the wrong people in the wrong seat, they become very obvious. And so we're often doing work to see, can we remediate? That's my first go-to. Can we make sure if there's something of value here, we want to keep them? Maybe they're in the wrong seat. Maybe they aren't clear on their expectations. But sometimes we try everything and they don't belong. So you'll also see some shifting to get excellent right people in the right seats, and that makes all the difference in the world, because that's why you have so many problems of making all the decisions, not trusting people, feeling like they don't know what they're doing, because you often have people who don't, and we got to move them to the right place or move them to another place.
Yeah.
And answering your question, how long does an engagement take? I've seen things last, 9 months to 18 months. I have a client that doesn't ever want to get rid of me. And I love them too. So it's okay. What we are going on just over 3 years, and there's no stopping in sight. What it is that she doesn't want to grow to have a full-time fractional or a full-time COO. She really likes our partnership, as do I. And it gives her what she needs. So not always is the goal to be the biggest, largest forever and grow out of a fractional COO. It's really creating the business you want. And that's where she's at. And we have this wonderful partnership, really strategic partnership. I know her business so well, and I know her team so well, and I know where she wants to go, that it's okay. We can just keep on going. It's by choice on both of our sides. I've told her many times, you've got the systems in place. We can put someone in place. You should probably fire me at this point and bring someone else. And we both say, but we love each other. We don't want to give it up. So it's not my typical, but you just kind of make it work for their business and honor what's going to be best for their long-term goals and short-term goals.
Yeah, I can that resonates with me with my experience. A lot of the clients we've been working with over the years, as they've grown to the point where they could potentially hire a full-time CFO, they're deciding to delay that a little bit, not just because of a good relationship, but because of the fact that we're able to bring to the table outside experiences based on other companies for whom we do work. And I've got a team that supports me. So they're not paying for my hours. They're not paying for like a full-time person, but they're getting a whole lot that it's relatively easy for me to deliver. It'd be harder for a full-time person to deliver the same thing. So that's an interesting, curious aspect of the whole fractional professional engagement that I'm starting to recognize myself. And as I speak with other fractional professionals like you, it seems like we're all one way or the other experiencing the same sort of thing. It's a new way of doing business relative to like the pre-COVID days. But for small businesses that are looking to grow, and for even medium-sized businesses that aren't at the large stage yet, or they don't necessarily want to go that direction, it might just be a great long-term solution as well, at least potentially for years. And it sounds like that's your vision for a new
Yeah,
engagement. It could be up to years.
I think too. I mean, I love it when I can help find someone within that can replace me. And a lot of times that may be all they need is someone who's really well organized, who kind of geeks out like me around processes and data, but they're still missing that strategic piece. So oftentimes we'll do a creative sort of firm administrator person in place to do the execution side more, and then drop down the engagement to being really that strategic advisor helping them make
Yeah.
decisions. Because that part, when you're small, it takes a long time. When you really are huge enough, like you were saying too, that you truly need a full-time person, it takes quite a while. I mean, you could even say maybe up to 100 million and more, because it's not every day that you're dealing with these things. And to be able to have someone, like you said, I see it too, to have a team, to have their own network, to have other clients. Almost every week, it's like, well, I had another client who did this. They love hearing that. They love being able to go peek into the window of someone else's business without being creepy, because I do it. I'm there. I'm paid to be there. I bring in those ahas, those approaches from all those other businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. If somebody wanted to come and talk to you and just say, "Hey, listen, I don't know if it's a fit for my business, but you know, how would you chat with somebody like that? What's your approach, or how would they reach out to you? What do you recommend they say or do with
Sure.
you?"
So my website, hamiltoncoos.com, has in our contact page, there's an option for an educational call. I love doing educational calls. I like to say I'm like the Wikipedia of fractional COOs. I do have a policy that no educational call has selling. So it's truly just to ask questions. Here's where I'm at. Do I need you? Do I need an executive assistant? Do I need a firm administrator? What do I need? Why would I get fractional? Why not get full time? Just there's so many questions that pop up when it becomes personal and you start to look at it. So that's the whole point of an educational call, is just to be able to point you in the right direction, even if that's not us. I want to make sure that they're equipped to grow and to get their goals, however that looks.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, financial side of things. Now, you have a CPA background, so you go into an organization and you look at their books. What are some financial red flags you see? What are some of the main financial red flags you see?
From an operational point of view, some of the bigger flags that I see: one, not profitable. What is the owner being paid? Are they being paid fair value? Collections is a big one. Are they actually collecting? How much is in their AR and their accounts receivable? I
Mm-hmm.
like to look at debt. Are they able to cover their debt? How are they basically funding their growth type of things. And so what I'm looking for in those first looks, as I said, I like to look at their financials, is really what I'm trying to evaluate is how healthy and what are some underlying risks that we need to address. If collections, for example, is behind, there's probably a collections process that is missing. So obviously getting cash in the door gives us a lot more options than cash on the books as accounts receivable, right? That is not real money.
Yeah.
But if
Yes.
you just look at revenue, you would think you're doing great. So I like to look at these things from a process point of view, from like what has been our approach. Like I said, how are we growing? Is it through debt? Is it through sweat equity? So I want to understand these things because I want to break some bad habits, put in some good processes, and then just be able to understand the impact of our decisions better. And that's the part why I love having a fractional CFO on the team with me for our clients, is because I want you to help me project and understand if we do this, model out what's going to happen. And that's the stuff that I don't know or want to do, but I want to be able to grab that from that financial expert so that we can make smarter decisions. So many people just go throw a dart and like, yep, that's my decision, instead of really understanding it. So that's why I like to really partner with the finance side to make sure that we do things that have an understanding of that long-term impact and short-term impact.
Yeah, being able to model out the scenarios financially helps translate that strategy or that plan into numbers, provides the guardrails, and shows you if there's going to be a return on investment or if there's a better option. And likewise, I'll mention this because it's 100% accurate. When I'm working with my clients and I'm modeling out different strategies, my issue is trying to get them to understand the importance of execution. Strategy, yes, it's important, and I can help them with that. But execution, that's a different side of the same coin. And the challenge is typically on the operations side. Who's going to follow through? What are the key tasks, timelines, task owners? And so to have somebody who can help marshal the forces and get things going in the right direction, that's of great value. So I really appreciate you and what you do. Okay, so we're at the point in the show where I give you the opportunity to ask me, a fractional CFO, any question about business that may be of interest or that you might want to know my opinion about. So
Sure. So, one of the things, as you probably already can hear from listening to the rest of this podcast, I love numbers and metrics. So, I want to hear from you when you are really supporting clients. What are some of your favorite metrics? Because looking at the financials is not enough. I think the numbers help make it come alive. So, I'd love to hear what you love to look at.
okay. When I'm dealing with a brand new client similar to you, I like to try to get an idea of what's there, what's going right, what's where there's opportunity for improvement, what the trends are, what the baselines are. And so there are a number of financial key performance indicators I'm looking at. Once I understand what those are and we look after the low-hanging fruit with respect to making improvements, it becomes very important for me to make sure everyone understands that the financial KPIs are lagging indicators and that the leading indicators are extremely important. So to answer your question today, because it might change tomorrow and it wasn't always the same before, but I'm very interested in sales conversion rates or sales and marketing conversion rates. Conversion rates right now are something I'm focusing on with a number of my clients, but trying to understand how important revenue is. I think everyone kind of gets that, but if it's so important, then let's take it to the next step. Let's forecast our revenue. So let's put down what we anticipate or what we expect that we're going to want or need, not on a timeline, like this month, next month, for the next 12 to 36 months, and then figure out a plan to achieve those targets. It's not going to happen by accident. We have to be intentional about it. So what are we going to do to drive those revenue growth targets? How are we going to achieve those targets? Part of it is going to be advertising, marketing, branding. Part of it's going to be sales, speaking to potential clients, to prospects. Part of it's going to be customer service, reducing our churn rate. Part of it's going to be managing our rate increases year over year, trying to keep up with inflation, trying to keep up with scope changes. There's so much of it. But to build, I've been working on this with some of my clients, to build a sales funnel, sales and marketing funnel, understanding what brings the leads into the top of the funnel, understanding the different stages within the funnel, like how do we take a lead and get that to somebody who's interested in us? How do we take somebody who's interested and get them to the point where they actually want to engage with us and have a discussion with us? How do we get somebody who has a discussion with us, get to that point where they actually want to do business with us? Along like in that sales funnel, in order for them to go from the top to the bottom, they have to be converted from each stage. And it's not necessarily something that is actionable at every step, but there are behaviors and activities within that sales funnel that we can be intentional about, that we can plan for, measure, manage to, that we could potentially improve our conversion rates. And how important is that? Well, it's sometimes you have to put this on a spreadsheet. Waving my hands around doesn't do quite the same job, although I'll tend to try to do that sometimes. But the reality is, a small improvement in conversion rates can have a massive impact to your revenue, and that can have a massive impact to your bottom line and to your business as a whole. And so, being able to focus on those little things that produce a big impact, that can have tremendous value. And it requires more than just understanding the numbers. It requires that follow through and that execution. But being able to show my clients using numbers the kind of impact we're talking about, it helps them prioritize and helps them put focus on the activities that need to be looked after. And so it's my favorite metric today, because the more I'm working on that and helping my clients understand the possibilities there, the more impact I'm able to make. And I'm in this business because I want to help people. I find businesses fun. I find like the idea of business fun. I never get tired of this. It's just great talking about it. But that's my answer for today, at least, Jen.
Right. I love that, because I think that too many people think, oh, we're fine with sales and marketing. But once you get into the numbers, they'll tell the truth.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you may have a full book of business if you're a professional service person, but do you have all A+ clients? You know, do you love them all? Are you able to drive the maximum impact with all of them? If you do, how many are lined up outside the door? Is it time to maybe bring somebody else on your team and teach somebody else, mentor somebody else to help people like you do, and to help more businesses because you like helping businesses? You know, it's not the truth, like you say, when you start laying it out, the truth becomes apparent. There's really, yes, you can get to the point where there's enough business, but most businesses aren't there yet. Most are not there yet. And even if they get there, once they have too much business coming in the door, and they'll start to shift the focus to building up their operation, building up their capabilities, their human resources, their systems. And once that's in place, guess what? Now they're looking for more business because they're able to take on more. So that's the way it works. Your
Yes.
intention will shift around the circle. Sometimes it's on business development, sometimes it's on operations, sometimes it's on finance. But as a CEO, you can't be focusing on all things all the time. And that's why it's great to have other professionals who are looking at your business, who understand it on the operations side, on the finance side, and also on the business development side. And all of these functions are aligned and proper professionals. And this is one of the advantages of the fractional professional. You're getting somebody who's at the executive level, who's able to fully understand business. And you are a CEO of your company, Jen. I'm a CEO of my company. I'm a fractional CFO, but I can speak to a CEO about what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish, and I can understand it, and I can help them get things done. And it sounds like that's exactly what you do too. So yeah,
Yes.
it is fun. It's great talking to you. This is kind of awesome. I
Thank you, Brian.
interview other people on my show. Some people I have more in common with, but we're doing similar businesses and we're helping people in similar ways. And so it's great to hear your take on things. And you've suggested a couple of things that I think are good ideas. I might want to try out with my business too.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, thanks for having me. It's so fun collaborating with you and thinking through these things. I think we could probably geek out about business all day long, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's I'm watch. I call this Mastery Fractional CFO's Punchy podcast. This one's going a little bit on the long side, but this is great, and I'm glad it is. And I'll make sure that I edit out any parts where we're getting too geeky. But I think this is good for our viewers because it does help, right? If you're a business owner, you're looking for the best possible solution, and in many cases, fractional C-level people have been able to deliver a lot more than a full-time on-staff person could, especially if you're hiring a junior person. You're not going to get the same results as if you're hiring a fractional person on a part-time basis. And that fractional person, provided they are at the executive level, they're going to provide more value, significantly better results.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's the reality. Okay, and I just want to mention to our viewers out there, if there's something that you found interesting about the show that you think somebody else might find valuable, please share it with them. And by all means, reach out to Jen if you have any questions about her or her business, or whether or not she may be able to help you. And Jen, you had mentioned the best way to contact you. Is there anything else along those lines you'd like to mention for anybody who might be listening?
Sure. When you go to my website, Hamilton COs, like I said, you can do that educational event. But I also have an opportunity if you are in the professional services field, we do monthly free roundtables, and they're for CEOs and COs, and we geek out, if you will, around what are some of those challenges that businesses are facing, and then we attack it from both the idea side and the execution side. So it's been really fun just having peers come together. And we have just hit our year anniversary. So we've been coming together for a while, and there's over the year we've probably had a good 400 or 500 people that have joined at some point. A lot of people keep coming back, so we love having you. If you are looking for a way to just talk through this stuff and you don't have to wait for that conference and go to the bar to ask, hey, what would you do? That's what these roundtables are for.
That sounds like great value. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks for being on our show, Jen. I really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best in your business. I'm sure we're going to be in touch because there's a lot of good stuff here that's somewhat synergistic. So I want to reach out to you down the road. Absolutely. And I welcome you to reach out to me as well.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Okay.
Ryan.
Thanks, everybody. That's our show for today. Bye for now.